Here's how it worked with me. A gaggle of transit cops stopped me after they saw me walk between two subway cars on my way to work. That's the same in every city. This, they told me, was against the rules. They asked for ID and typed my name into a handheld computer. Isn't this wonderful, this instant data collection stuff and retrieval for them? Up come that old citation that I didn't know about and they couldn't tell me about. I was immediately handcuffed and brought to the precinct. There I waited in a holding cell, then was fingerprinted post-CSI memo. Then I would take the fingers, the thumbs, the palms, and the sides of both hands. Why not just roll us over the floor on some paint and then onto some paper? The whole body. Well, it would work fine for humiliating us even more. I could hardly believe it. I was being arrested without ever having committed a crime. I was held overnight in the Midtown North Precinct lockup, minus his shoelaces and belt. It says meals courtesy of McDonald's. In the morning, and they probably have deals with McDonald's too, corporations are. In the morning, my fellow convicts and I were led chain gang style to the Manhattan Community Court next door. The judge there dismissed the charge against me because no one ever does time for that kind of crime. 2 days later at Brooklyn Central Court, my warrant was lifted for time served, again because no one is ever locked for breaking the leash law. If the cops had simply written me a ticket, I would have paid it. Well, that would be a foolish thing to do as well. See, that's how we're trained, just pay up. Most folk do. So if they written a ticket, you would have paid it. You'd also have to pay to vacate my outstanding warrant. But by handcuffing me and holding me overnight, the city spent quite a bit of money. Took 2 police officers approximately 6 hours each just to arrest and process me, while the fines assessed against me were rescinded. And you thought they were hiring all these cops for drugs. So war on drugs. War on drugs. They have to do something with them, don't they? Then he goes on about the different people he met inside and what they were in for. One guy just had a nip of whiskey in the street. So he's in the slammer, courts to the taxpayer. Buskers, guys who sing in the subway stations. And they're arrested because they're carrying a guitar and an accordion. But this goes on to say at the bottom, it's interesting, you see, when you look at the crimes that have been listed in the last 8 years or so. When Giuliani was in, the Giuliani administration highlighted this increase of equality of life summonses. That's what they're calling all these little things now, equality of life summonses. But statistics from the annual mayor's management report indicates that the Bloomberg administration has just been as zealous. The number of such summonses, these trivia, utter nonsense, under Giuliani reached its height in fiscal 2001, hitting 523,000. After a dip in 2002, the number of quality of life summonses rose under Mayor Bloomberg to more than 700,000 in fiscal year 2004. It says a decline since then to 527,000 in fiscal 2008, still higher than under the previous mayor. It's a business. The world, you see, is just one big business, and crime pays for those who own it. The system, that is. Back with more after these messages.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
Through the matrix, doing a bit of a wailing here, just like that guitar, because that's what's really happening. It's time we start doing an awful lot of wailing before we can come to tough conclusions and start working collectively towards the proper collective way out of all of this, because we're utter schmucks at the moment. We're passive, domesticated schmucks. And we don't care, really. We haven't cared so much to know what's going on to other people, because as long as we're left alone, personally, to play, now getting in down to the lowest common denominator. It's like a one-armed bandit at a casino. You pull that lever, and all the stuff spins in front of your eyes, and one day your name comes up. You see, it's your time for inquisitors to come for you for some trivia. That's how bad it is. It's going to get a lot worse. Because why? We've allowed them to go this far, invading our privacy and collecting data. Every year, more and more data is collected. They keep telling us they're passing more laws to collect, so that to enable themselves legally to collect more data. Isn't that wonderful? At the top, they can legally pass laws to make it legal for them to snoop on you. And we sit back and, oh, well, you know, what's on TV? Sports. That's how bad it is. It's our own fault. But watch the banks collectively loot the world, the big bankers. But in collusion, of course, with the politicians who set up the system in deregulating any watch over them, which allowed them to create all the bubbles that sunk the economy. And the money, we were told, went to money heaven. Money heaven, where shekels rattle. And that's the last we hear of it, until we're told, well, we've got to pay for all that money that disappeared. Or the banks are out. Well, why not just kick them out and get a different system? No, that won't do, because after all, the bankers and the politicians run the world, and no other gods will be rivaling them, obviously. But what do they do with the people who are now in tent cities across the world? In the shanty towns, the new shanty towns that have lost everything. Well, your government hasn't forgotten you. Your governments haven't forgotten you. And this is happening across the Western world and the U.S. as well as Canada. This is your advice. They're giving us good advice, even though we're broke. They're not throwing millions of dollars at us like they are with the banks of taxpayers' money. No, they're telling you how to cope with living in a tent. And this particular article is called Getting Through Tough Economic Times. This is by the American Mental Health Association. This is the great idea to help you who've been floored after getting plundered and raped and pillaged by the banks in collusion with the politicians. So they're telling you, giving you little tips to help you get through it. It says this guide provides practical advice on how to deal with the effects of financial difficulties can have on your physical and mental health. And what does it do? It covers possible health risks. Well, I guess when you're malnourished and you're eating off garbage dumps, you've got a problem. You could easily become infected with bad food. Then it gives you warning signs. Then it's managing stress. Then how to get help. I don't know from whom. Maybe from the euthanasia clinics. Suicide warning signs. Other steps you can take. And they give you links to all of this. It says here, possible health risk, economic turmoil, e.g., increased unemployment, foreclosures, loss of investments, and other financial distress, can result in a whole host of negative health effects, both physical and mental. It can be particularly devastating to your emotional and mental well-being. Although each of us is affected differently by economic troubles, these problems can add tremendous stress, which can in turn substantially increase the risk for developing such problems as depression. Why are you depressed if you've been reduced to a tent city? Anxiety. Compulsive behavior, such as overeating. That's highly likely. Money. Excessive gambling, that's kind of ruled out too. Spending, etc. Or substance abuse. It gives you more warning signs. Persistent sadness and crying. You've lost your house and everything. Excessive anxiety, lack of sleep and constant fatigue. Excessive irritability and anger. Why would you be angry when you've done all the right things to be plundered by people you'll never even meet, who at the stroke of a pen bankrupted you? Increased drinking, illicit use of drugs, and misuse of medications, difficulty paying attention or staying focused. It's pretty true. If you're fighting for your survival, it's hard to keep focused on trivia. Apathy, not caring about things that usually are important to you, not being able to function as well at work,